everyone and welcome back. Today we will be performing module 7 and lab 7.1, which is remediating an incident by using AWS Config and Lambda. So in this lab we will learn how to use the AWS Config service to monitor changes to specific resources in your AWS account. We will discover how to use the service to identify changes that could be a security concern, such as a user modifying an Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud Amazon EC2 security group. Furthermore, we will then gain practical experience by integrating AWS Config with AWS Lambda to automatically remediate specific security incidents of concern. So after completing this lab, we should be able to do the following, like explain how to use AWS Identity and Access Management IAM roles to grant AWS services access to other AWS services, enable AWS config to monitor resources in an AWS account, create and enable a custom AWS config rule that uses a pre-created Lambda function, test the behavior of an AWS config rule to ensure it's working as intended, and last but not the least, which will be, is analyze Amazon CloudWatch logs to audit when AWS config rules are invoked. The duration is that this lab will require approximately 75 minutes to complete, so we will try our best to complete it within the specified time, within like before 75 minutes, and the duration of this total lab is 2 hours 30 minutes. 2 minutes it takes for the start lab instance for the AWS to configure. So to start our task of this lab, let me just click on this green link here and wait for it to load. So scenario is like, during this lab our responsibility is to monitor Amazon EC2 security group settings in an AWS account, in which we will define which inbound ports should and shouldn't be opened in a security group. We will configure a solution to automatically remediate an incident where someone modifies a security group's inbound rules and they no longer conform with the desired configuration. So when we start the lab, our AWS account will contain 2 IAM roles and a Lambda function. It will contain a default VPC with a default security group in it, and a custom VPC named lab VPC, which has a security group named lab SG1 in it. So like, here's the following architecture diagram, which was created in the AWS beginning instance of this lab. Like, here are the details of it. And during this lab, we will configure the AWS config service to create an inventory of specific resources in one region of our AWS account, and then we create an AWS config rule. So by the end of the lab, we will have the diagram like as it shows. We have this attached format of the use cases of it. So let us begin our task 1, which is examining and updating an IAM roles. In this task, we will analyze 2 IAM roles that were pre-provisioned for us in the lab environment. We will update the permissions of one of the roles. AWS config and Lambda will use these roles, which later onwards in the lab. So now for our task, let us begin. Like, in the search box to the right of AWS services, we will search and choose IAM. Okay. So here I have chosen IAM. Let me open it in a new tab. Okay. In the navigation pane, choose roles and then choose the AWS config Lambda SG role link. Okay. There we are in the navigation pane. We will choose roles and then AWS config Lambda SG role. And here it is, AWS config Lambda SG role. Let me open it in a new tab. So here it is the rule of it with some policies attached to it and a JSON file as well. While on the permission tab, expand the AWS config SG role policy. Okay, here it is, the Lambda SG role policy. Here let us expand the JSON. Here we have the JSON file of it. Let us verify like what the contents of it. Like we have create log groups, create log streams, put log events, and an ARN numbers for it, and which effect is allow resources. And it should also contain config put evaluations, EC2 describe security groups, and authorize security group ingress. So let us verify whether they exist. Alright, so in this JSON file, it all exists, like create log group here in the JSON, logs for it, create log streams, and then for logs put log events, and with the ARN AWS logs, and the effect is allow, put evaluations, describe security groups, authorize security group ingress, and revoke security group ingress as well. And the resource for it is effect is allow. Okay. So like this is a customer rule that was created for us and which will be used later. We will attach a role to a Lambda function in it. Okay. So update the permissions that are granted to the AWS config role IAM role. In the navigation pane, choose roles and then choose AWS config role link. Okay. So for now roles, here it is, AWS config role. Let me open it in a new tab as well. And then we will expand the S3 policy which is already attached to this role. Here is the S3 access JSON, and here are the details of it. All right. So currently this role grants permission to get bucket access control lists of Amazon simple storage services, buckets, and upload objects to an S3 bucket if certain conditions are met. These permissions will allow AWS config to write CloudWatch log files to Amazon S3. So near the top of the lag, choose add permissions and attach policies. Okay, so let us go to add permissions, attach policies. Okay, here there are a lot of JSON policies which we can select and attach policies to the to our lab instance which we are currently inside in. Here are a lot of policies here, like 55 in total, and more policies are attached to it. So what policy we will be attaching to it? Let me check. To search for policies related to AWS config, in the search box search for config and press enter. Okay, so let me just here search for config and press enter. So here we have the config files of all of it, a lot of config JSON files inside it. So let's see which one we have to attach here. AWS, we have to select the AWS underscore config rule policy here. All right. So let me select, let me first expand the AWS underscore config role policy here JSON. We have the details of it here with all of these inside, these integrations and files of it, and JSON files inside. And here I have selected it here. And next is choose add permissions, which is located in the lower right corner, and then we will attach it. Okay, so here we have selected here our AWS underscore config role, and next we will be adding it. Add permissions policy was attached successfully. Let's verify it here in the AWS config role. Alright, here's the attached entities and policies here inside it. We have the details of it with get analyzer, get archive rules, and a lot, and so on. And this is one of a big JSON file, so no need to just understand it here. Our task was here to attach the AWS config role JSON in it. Alright, so here our task 1 is complete, and the next task is we will be setting up AWS config to monitor resources here. Anyways, we can close the Lambda SG role here tab because we won't be needing it here for now. And and for this we will be setting up AWS config here. All right, so let me just open the AWS config here. Here, let me open it in a new tab. Wait for it to load. So here I am inside the AWS config tab. Like, the purpose of it is to record and evaluate configurations of our AWS resources, provides a detailed view of the resources associated with our AWS accounts, including how they are configured, how they are related to one another, and how the configurations and their relationships have changed over timestamps. Alright, so to here get started. Alright, here we are in the recording methods of it. And the recording strategy, choose specific resource types. Okay, So here in the recording strategy, we will choose here specific resource types, and next resource type, choose AWS EC2 security group. Resource type, okay, a lot of AWS resources are here. Let me just search for AWS EC2 security group here. Okay, AWS EC2 security group. Here we have AWS security group. We have to attach this one. We do not have to attach this one. We have to attach this one here. Okay. And in the frequency, we will choose continuous IAM role for AWS config. Choose a role from your account. All right. So for IAM role for AWS config, regarding this, we will choose a role from your account here. Existing role already it is specified by default, AWS config role here. And in the delivery channel section, notice that the AWS config will store findings in an S3 bucket by default. Keep the settings default and choose next. All right. So by default, create S3 bucket. We do not have to touch this. We just have to simply just click on next. So here in the managed rules, there are a lot of managed rules here, but for this we don't have to attach any rules here for the policy. On the AWS managed page, choose next at the bottom of the page. All right, we can skip this. We do not have to attach any checkbox here. Let me just click next. All right, here we have the recording strategy of it, like review of all of what we are setting in it. And now let me just click on confirm. Now just wait for it. Alright, so here we have our AWS config rule attached policies over here. We have all the datas here with every contents. To observe the resource inventory that AWS config created in the navigation pane, choose resources. Alright, so when we are in the dashboard, let us go to the resources. No resource to pass your filter anyways. And the resource inventory page displays and lists the Amazon EC2 resources in your account. If the resource list displays a message saying that your resources are being discovered, wait a few minutes. It might take a few minutes for AWS config to identify all of your resources. So since we have not created any resources here, so therefore we won't be getting any resource pass in our filter. So no need to worry about it. We can just move on with our next task. Let us just refresh it to verify whether any resource exists or has been created using the AWS configs. So as you can see, no role has been created for it, so no need to worry about it. Any resources passed down or not, because resources haven't been passed down, because technically we have created them just now. So here our task 2 is complete, and next task 3 is modifying a security group that AWS config monitors. In this task, we will configure new inbound rule settings in one of the security groups that is listed in the AWS config resource inventory. The purpose is to effectively emulate a security incident. Some of the inbound rule settings that we will define during this task won't match the desired settings, so which we will be defining in a later task. So for this, we will now be moving on to our VPCs. Alright, let us just go to VPC, open link in a new tab. In the navigation pane, choose the filter by VPC box and choose lab VPC. Alright, we can select it by filter by VPC, or just simply go into the VPCs here. Simply just checkbox this select. Here are the details of the lab VPC here. Okay, resource maps, CIDRs, flow logs, tags, integrations. Now next we will be going into the security groups. Wait for it to load. And and choose security group. At least 2 security groups are defined in this VPC. Select the lab SG1 security group. Although we have 3, so we will select the lab SG1 security group here. Here we have details of it, inbound rules, outbound rules, sharing new, VPC associations new, and tags. Alright. So next we will be add inbound rules to the security group to allow HTTP, HTTPS, SMTPs, and IMAPs network traffic. Choose the inbound rules tab and then choose edit inbound rules. Okay. Here we will go to the inbound rules, and here we have one resource policy here attached to it. What we will be doing is we will be adding three rules to it and editing the HTTP one, which is port 81 here. Okay. Edit inbound rules. So for this we will just edit here to anywhere IPv4, because the next task is here for the existing rule, change source to anywhere IPv4. Alright. So now we will be adding 3 more new rules to it. So choose add rule and configure the following type. Choose HTTPS anywhere IPv4, followed by add rule type SMTPS anywhere IPv4, and then for the last one choose add rule again and configure the following, like type choose IMAPs and source anywhere IPv4. Let us just do this quickly. Here we add rule. First is HTTPS, which is the port 443 anywhere IPv4. Next is SMTP, SMTPS, not SMTP, SMTPS. For this we will also select anywhere IPv4, add rule. What is the last one? IMAPs. Alright, IMAPs selected, anywhere IPv4. Okay. Here we have added three new rules and have edited the port 81, which was custom, to anywhere IPv4. And next we will be now saving the rules. Okay, save rules. Okay, these rules have now been created successfully in the security groups. Let us just re-verify it. Alright, we have 4 rules here of HTTP, SMTPS, IMAPs, HTTPS with port ranges of 80, 465, 993 and 443. Okay, here this is similar format. In this task, like, we located a security group in the lab VPC and defined 3 new inbound rules in the security group. Later in this lab, we will observe these modifications are identified as a security incident and remediated. So now moving on to the task 4, which is creating an AWS config rule that calls a Lambda function. In this task, we will configure an AWS config rule to invoke a pre-created Lambda function. The rule and the function will work together to ensure that monitored Amazon EC2 security groups have only the desired inbound rules. So for this, we will be going to the AWS details section and copy the value for Lambda function ARN, and which will be copying it. Okay. Alright. Let me just copy the Lambda function here. Can it be responsive or not? No, it is not responsive here. Okay, so it's okay. We may just simply have to copy the ARN. Let me just expand it a little so that no value should be left. Copy. Let me just paste it in Notepad here, just in case. Alright, so here we have pasted it here, so it shouldn't be a problem. Let me just expand it, close it here for now, minimize. So create a new AWS config rule that will invoke the Lambda function whenever monitored Amazon EC2 security groups are modified. Okay, let me just go to the AWS config home. Alright, now in the navigations, what do I have to select is in the navigation pane, choose rules. Here aggregators, rules, which one rules? Okay, this one I guess. Alright, this is the one. What this one or the aggregator one, I don't know. Okay, anyways, this one, sorry, my mistake. This one, we have to select this one. Currently AWS config doesn't have any rules defined to it. Okay, so which is clear. We will be adding a rule to it, like we will choose add rule, and for select rule type choose create custom and lambda rule. Okay, I have clicked add rule. We have three options like add AWS managed rule, create custom lambda rule, create custom rule using guard. We will use create custom lambda rule, and then I think we will click on next. For select rule type choose create custom. Okay, this is done. On the configure rule, we will be doing pasting the lambda ARN which we had copied. Okay, so here our AWS Lambda rule will be going. Let me just copy it and paste it here. Let me just check whether any backspaces are there in it or not. No, sorry, there are no backspaces in it, so it's fine. Okay, for the name we will be entering EC2 security group. Here EC2 security group. For the description of it, restrict inbound ports to HTTP and HTTPS. Let me just copy and paste it here. Okay, select when trigger type, select when configuration changes. Okay, here is the trigger type, and here we will be selecting when configuration changes. And in scope of changes choose resources. Scope of changes, here we have all changes, resources, tags. We will select resources here. Okay, and in the next one, resource type choose AWS EC2 security group. Scope of resource type, resource category, resource type. Okay, there are a lot of AWS services here. We have to select AWS EC2 security group. Okay, AWS security EC2 security group. So as instructed, we will be selecting AWS EC2 security group here. Alright, so it has been done. Next is AWS security appears in the resources area. Alright, so it has been done. In the parameters section, add a parameter with the following settings like key debug, value true. In the parameters section, here in the parameters section, let me just copy it from here. Debug and value true. So now here this has been done. And then choose next and save. Okay, we don't have to add any rule tags in it. We have done it in the parameters. Choose next. Here we have the details of it. We can review it, like proactive evaluations and detective evaluations and everything here. Where we, let me just save it. Here the rule of rule EC2 security group has been created to our account. Alright, here we have it. Remediation action not set, custom lambda type here. Observe the AWS rules it in the resource in scope section, choose a non-compliant drop down menu and choose all. Let me just simply just refresh it here. Let me just open this file in a new tab. Okay, here it works fine. Also the AWS config rule details EC2 in the resources in scope section, choose the non-compliant drop down menu. choose and choose all. Here I've selected all. Okay, here we have been here successfully, and all. Alright, permissions were modified here. Compliant check marks here corrected. Alright, here the compliant detected status here works. Alright, let's just close it here. We have observed it. Alright, timestamp will display. We were able to see the timestamps here. Just to re-verify anyways. Yeah, the timestamp here now displays. Before it was not displaying. For resources in scope, select here all. Everything works here, so it's fine. So now, yeah, annotation like the permissions were modified. We were able to get it that like permissions were verified by clicking on this link. So now in the next task number 5 is revisiting the security group configuration. Now that the initial AWS config compliance evaluation has occurred, we will re-examine the lab SG1 security group. We will observe whether the security incident changes the modifications that we made to the inbound rules were noticed and then remediated. So now analyze the inbound rules defined on the lab SG1 security group. Navigate to the VPC console. In the navigation pane, choose the filter by VPC box and choose lab VPC. Alright, let us go back to the VPCs here. Filter by VPC, lab security group. Okay, lab VPC. Oh, sorry, my mistake. By lab VPC. Next, we will go to the security groups. I will just refresh it here. Let me select the lab SG1. And on the inbound, notice that the select the lab SG1 security group. On the inbound rules tab, notice that only HTTP and HTTPS traffic is permitted. Okay, so the inbound rule should now look like the rules in the following screenshot, although your security group rules IDs are different. Okay, so it's fine. Here I have selected this inbound rules. So HTTP, HTTPS, and these are only enabled. Alright, here we have these full columns with /zeros, like these were remediated, and others were removed here. So okay, it's fine. So before we redefined IMAPs as SMTPS, and they were then later onwards replaced with HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, so this is true. Our lab task instance here has been done here. Task 5 I meant to say. So now is that next task is that we will be analyze the Lambda function code, navigate to the Lambda console in the navigation. Alright. Okay, this is a lot of tasks here. Okay, so now we will be navigating to the Lambda. Okay, let me just open it in a new tab. You need to keep these tabs open for your lab task instances to work. Okay, here let me just select this functions tab, AWS Lambda, open it. So I am inside here. Let's just wait for it to load. Okay, awesome. So it loads. Now the code source, we will be analyzing the code code. In the code source, open the AWS Lambda group.py file that we imported. Although in the previous versions of this lab, like in 2022 or 2021, the imported like Python file was given in these instructions. But now, since timestamps have moved on, there is no imported file. So for the Python, which we may have to download it individually. So in order for that, anyways, they have already done it built in here. We will be simply just analyzing it. So here we have opened the index.py here. We can just simply just drop it down here. We will be analyzing the Python code here, like details of it, whether they match or not. No. So first, what we will be observing in this code is that on the line 2, the function imports Boto3, which is the AWS SDK for Python. Let us check. Yes, import line 2, import Boto3 is there, like it imports it, which is the AWS SDK for Python. That is true. And in next on line number 9, required permissions are defined. Let us check. Required permissions are defined here with the IP protocols here with 80 port 80s and port 443 here. Like, alright, so that is correct for it. The required permissions are defined in the format that the described security group API call requires. This call is invoked on line number 117. Okay, let us just check the line number 117, whether it exists there or not. So like here, the compliance type here exists with return type value of it and an annotation message to it. And on line 129, the function checks whether the debug parameter is included in the AWS config rule or not. Let us check with line number 129 for it, whether it exists or not. Alright, here the debug in rule parameters debug enabled exists here for the debug rule which we created in the AWS config here. So the Python file automatically updates with this lab task. Alright, for more information about regarding the describe security group API call, we can check it here in the AWS SDK for Python documentation here. Okay, here we have the documentation of it here, like EC2 client describes security group rules here with its request syntax logic, and here it has all the response syntaxes in the JSON format which will be stored inside the AWS any files JSONs. I think here it has all the explanations of it. We can go through it later onwards for it. So like in this task, we observed the logic for the Lambda function to detect and remove the additional permissions for SMTPS TCP port 465 and IMAPS TCP port 4993 in the security group. Alright, last but not the least, task 6 is using CloudWatch logs for verification. So in this task, we will analyze CloudWatch logs and filter the log entries to find evidence of the remediation. So now locate the logs that show evidence of the changes that the AWS config rule and its associated Lambda function made to the security rules. So now we will be observing CloudWatch logs here. Okay, let me just type CloudWatch here. Open it in a new tab. While it loads, let me just remove the instance here. We won't be needing it anymore now. Logs. Okay. And then choose log groups. Here I have selected log groups here from the CloudWatch. Wait for it to load. Choose the AWS Lambda security group log group link. One or more log stream entries are visible in the log streams. Alright. Let us just open the logs here. Wait for it to load. Okay, here log streams, we have two logs here loaded here. Okay. Choose search all. Where to choose search all. Okay, let me just here open link in a new tab here. Wait for it to load. Search all timestamps. Like here we have all the logs here from A to Z, like what logs were generated in our timestamps here. Okay. In the filter event search field, enter revoking for. All right. Filter events. We will be entering revoking for. Let me just copy and paste it. Press enter. Alright, so we have the revoking for logs here for all of these remediating instances here. Expand each log event and review the contents. Each event provides details about the action that the Lambda function took. In one of the events, you should find details showing that the inbound rules that you manually added for SMTPS TCP port 465 and IMAPS TCP port 993 were removed. The other filter events log the changes to the other security groups that exist in our account. These security groups are also in the resources inventory that your AWS config rule is monitoring. Okay, let us just check all the logs here. Alright, here in the permissions we have like all of these user ID groups here. One, the second one. Alright, here we have the port 65 which we added here. We're in the port 443 logs here. Analysis, we are currently doing the log analysis which we added in the timestamp sequential manner. Like 993 were here we did this task here. Alright, and to port user ID from the custom we change it to anywhere IPv4 with the CIDR ranges here. And for this one IP protocol TCP we did this one as well. Alright, in the next one only we added the XG group in inbounds here which were monitored by it, and now here those two were removed and we only have 443 HTTPS and port 83 here, or port 80 here, sorry. And similar for here revoking, and for the revoking one here, last one in the last, like the IMAPS one and the SMTPS one were removed, and in the end only port 81 remained and port 4431 remained here, logic group here. Therefore here from here our task number 6 of our final lab 7.1 is complete here, and now we will be submitting our report here. We have done all the tasks here. Yes. Alright, now it is, we are submitting it. Submission is in progress. Recording is also in progress here. Let's wait. Alright, we have attained 100. I have attained 100 marks in this lab tasks. Let us check the submission report here. Alright, so evaluating task 1, AWS config role updated, task 1 success. The AWS config role IAM policy was attached to the AWS config role IAM role. Evaluating task 2, AWS config setup, task 2 success. Lab SG1 was found in the AWS config resource inventory. Evaluating task 3, lab SG1 security group manually added, task 3 success. Evidence was found in the CloudTrail event history of the inbound rules being manually added to the security group. Evaluating task 4B, AWS config rule created, success. The AWS config rule was properly configured. And last task, evaluating task 6, lab SG1 updated by AWS config rule, success. The lab SG1 security group complies with the AWS config rule. Alright, so it works perfectly, successfully. Everything was integrated in it. Here our final lab, which was a lab 7.1, has been done, and with this AWS cloud security all labs were performed. And in next I will be performing is module 7 knowledge check. And make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel, and do share this video with your peers as well. And I hope to see you next time. Have a nice day and happy learning. Goodbye.